Bam.
This is Craig Dehut, and you're watching the Break It Down show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for coming on the show. I love getting to talk to folks who produce things, who make things, especially in this modern time with all the ways to do media. And there's old things, there's new things. They're blending together at a rate that is. I produce things as well. It's hard to keep track of all the things you have to keep track of just on the mixing of in my heart, right? My heart doesn't get to make that many decisions. I want to shoot on film, and I know Kodak will be stoked if I do, and they will help promote my stuff. But I can't shoot on film.
Yeah,
there's just no way, right?
Yeah.
And so, how do we blend all this stuff, man, so that our stuff is real, but also, hey, look, AI is going to help me make a whole bunch of stuff that's not real, so I can really make this thing.
Oh man, big questions right off the bat, man. You're not holding back here. Yeah. I mean, so I'm old enough to remember when I was in college, I took a photography class and we used film and we developed it in a dark room. But even then, I was the last class to do it. They were actually closing down the dark room after that semester. Jeez. And then went to film school. And, I didn't get to shoot on, film, but we were shooting on beta tape and we were shooting on, sure. HD, high def cameras, but still on tape. And I've seen the proliferation of SD cards and now, CFast and all these things. How we record those images, where we put them and how we process them changes. Yeah. And sometimes it's, there's some nostalgia to it. You kind of, man, I miss the film and I miss the dark room and I miss, but then you just got to remember what is it that we are at heart. And we're storytellers, we're artists, and the tools change. We're using different paint brushes, we're using different paints, right. But the objective is still the same. As far as we're concerned, we're creating stories. We're telling stories that we hope are meaningful and impactful. And we're using digital means to do that. And that's changing so fast. Yeah. AI is helpful. And I do use it to enhance what I have already created, but I don't trust it to originate the thing. I've done some hilarious experiments where, I wanted to see what it tried to do. And I'll use it to give me ideas, to maybe kickstart some things, to help modify or even clean up what I have already created. It transcribes really well. It cleans up audio really well using AI stuff. But at the heart of it, I'm the storyteller, and I think audiences genuinely want that. Right now, they're gobbling up all the AI slop because it's dessert and it tastes good and it's fun, and it's sweet, and it's making everybody sick. At the end of the day, people are going to want genuine, real storytellers, and that's why we do what we do.
Man, that's a great answer, and it's very practical. I want to shoot on film. Maybe one day I'll get to do that on one project. Maybe.
Yeah,
right?
Likewise.
And that's an aspiration. But Kodak's going to help cover, or someone else will be like, Pete, I need you to shoot on film. And I don't know who that person is, but that person exists. The thing about audio, you're so right. Like, it's so good already at cleaning up and fixing audio better than I can reliably do it, because I'll just slide the bars to the right and just like, try this, try that, and go forward. It's better at it than I am.
That was my industry. That was my entrance into this industry. Is I got a job in radio in high school, so like audio was kind of my first love. And man, the tricks that you would have to employ to ensure that the thing was recorded clean. Because after it was recorded at the time, there was very, very little you could do with it to clean up bad audio. And now, man, I'm a documentary filmmaker now. I'm traveling into spaces where I don't have the control over the natural sounds that are, and I can clean up that siren in the background, and I can clean up the traffic noise and the people walking behind. There are tools that are just exceptional at that now that we did not have back in the early 2000s.
Yeah. When I went through my mass comm degree, we still had the decks on our editing bays for cutting video, but we never did it, right? It was there. They hadn't removed them, but Yeah, and the VCR to VCR editing
Yeah.
things would slide. You'd be like, "Oh, damn it!" And you would
Yeah.
like wait until it happened to catch the right frame or good enough, and then you'd be like, "This is my digital cut here." And
Yeah.
that was, oh my gosh, infuriating to do. But one of the cool things you could do is make fast hitting, like dun 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 kind of images over video, and you just push the video button, and it would just like capture, capture, capture. And so already that thing that would have taken 1,000 individual cuts, which would have been not worth anybody's time and would have been messy and everything else, you could already make something new. And I saw people like really learning how to drive those infernal bay, the VCRs in those bays, because they were so sloppy, and they just figured out a way to make something super slick, so many cuts. And I was like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, we were told to cut on the drum beat, and they're like, cut all whenever you want, as often as you want, because it's
Yeah.
all different now. And that messed our teachers up, because they're like, no, that doesn't work. And then they'd see it and be like, this is amazing, so we have to keep that positive. So the audio thing, great. But also, how about real music? How about real musicians really pulling a bow across real strings in a room full of real people, so that impact hopefully translates? Again, I don't know if I get to do that, but that for me is going to always be the standard. How do I make this more real and within the budget that I have? And all of a sudden,
Right.
gosh, real just starts to leave the room, man.
Yeah.
I struggle with that on the art side, where how hard do I push on art? But I can't do art for art's sake and not have anybody see it, because then I don't get to make more things.
Right.
But also,
Oh man.
oh gosh,
Yeah.
you hear
The
my
fine
struggle.
line that you've got to drive with all of that is, 40 years ago, if you wanted to make movies, you had one option, and it was to find someone with a lot of money who could pay for all of the professional stuff. And that was it. Like, that was your choice. So you had to go to Hollywood and get permission from the gatekeepers.
Right.
But then came the fact that now, the equipment is much more accessible. We can get, the level of entry is much lower, and there's blessings to that. It means more people can now create. We don't have to wait for the $1 million budget or higher. People are making award-winning short films or even feature films for thousands of dollars, not millions. But on the downside of that then is that more people are creating.
Yeah.
And some of it, needs some additional funding. Some of it shouldn't just be slapped together and thrown out there. So it's a balance. And that's the struggle with what we do with Appian Media is, we want it professionally made. We want it high production value. We don't want to just create for creation's sake. We don't want to get out the project just because someone's waiting for it. And that's a temptation for us. It's been so long since we put out something new. We're going to take our time, and we're going to make sure it's of high quality. But how do you do that with a limited budget? And what are the tools that you can use so that you're not asking for millions of dollars?
Yeah.
That's
yeah, man, you're capturing this well. You definitely have your finger on the pulse of what it is. Which parts do you struggle with within this? I mean, you're giving me great answers that I'm like, yeah, gosh, I'm being too hard on everything. But I know we all struggle trying to find the balance. And again, what we get to do and what we want to do are rarely the same thing.
That's true. That's true. I mean, every creative, I think, feels that way. I've yet to meet someone who gets to work on their passion project and immediately go on to their next passion project. I do the work that I do for Appian Media, but I'm also making client videos as a freelance video producer. And sometimes this videos I'm not going to brag about. They're just standard corporate testimonials, but those are the things that put food on the table. All the while planning for and making inroads for the things that I am passionate about. And I think that's true for every artist. And so putting your heart and soul into everything that you do, even when it is those corporate testimonial videos, because there are things that you're going to be learning, even when you're doing the boring stuff, that will benefit your passion project when you do finally get your hands on that. And so just getting out there and creating and being busy with it, I think is important. What's the hardest part? I'm not sure. there's 6 to 8 months that we just spent in development and pre-production to go on our most recent international documentary shoot. We went to Israel and Turkey and Greece for 18 days. And that took months and months of planning. The planning is not my favorite part, because part of that is the fundraising as well. It's getting the funds to do the thing. The 18 days overseas shooting the video and producing it and directing it, like, man, yeah, I could do that. But 18 days will about destroy you. It's about all I can do. And then I need to come home and rest. And now we're entering into the post-production of that. And that's really exciting, but it's long. We're talking 10 to 12 months in order to produce the about 13 videos that we hope to get out of this. So what part is my favorite? It kind of depends on the day. What I love about filmmaking and what I love about producing and telling stories is there's a variety of things. You're never just doing one thing over and over and over again. And so sometimes you're writing, and sometimes you're editing, and sometimes you're out shooting, and sometimes you're talking with people, and sometimes you're fundraising. And it's all part of it. It's one of the reasons that I fell in love with this industry is it pulled in a lot of the things that I was passionate about, and I didn't have to just choose one. I got to choose 7 or 8 of them, and balancing those is kind of a fun juggling act. Yeah.
You mentioned 3 different places that you went to on this past trip, and this is one of the, so a lot of for everybody. Go to Craig's website, appianmedia.com or org, or go to the YouTube channel, which is Appian Media. You guys will find that. The links are here and here. You guys know what to do. You guys know how to work the internet. When you go to a place like, I don't know, Thessaloniki, you're like, hey, I'm learning about religion, Jesus, people who were talking about religion and Jesus way back when. And I'm in Thessaloniki, I'm in Ephesus, I'm in Turkey, I'm in Greece, I'm not in Israel. I'm all over the place. And that to me is fascinating, because when you were in that time, just like this time, if you're like, oh man, we're going to go to New York City and we're going to go to Tokyo, and that's all we talked about this modern time. Like, wait, what else was happening? Oh, by the way, LA was huge then. Moscow was doing things. And so there's so much to these stories. We tend to get fixated on these things, books of the Bible, obviously a good place to start. But, what was going on over in what is now Tunisia, what was going on over in Libya. You could do this indefinitely and find completely fertile ground, untold stories by just stepping 2 steps to the left or right. We definitely get object fixated on things that are big, but there's just always more stories. How far can you push your band out, like to go get that story from, Libya?
It's so hard. We've been blessed now to make numerous trips to Israel. I've been to Turkey a couple of times. We've been to Egypt and Jordan and now Greece. This was the first time I'd been to Greece. But you go in with a plan. These are the things that we're going to produce, and you've got a limited amount of time. You can't, I've got a family. We've all got families. I can't be gone for 8 months at a time. And you've got to pick and choose. And it breaks my heart sometimes where we're on our way to a location, but we're driving by such and such a place, and we can't stop. Like, we don't have time to stop. And I could make a whole documentary about what we just drove past, and it'll have to wait until next time, especially when you go to places like Israel. That country is so small. You go to Jerusalem, and there's 400 stories you could tell just about the various places you could visit there in Jerusalem. But we're there, in the past, our first production, we were there to tell the story of Jesus, the life of Jesus. Well, there's numerous Old Testament stories I could tell you about Jerusalem, but we had to drive right past it. And it just, I've been to Israel 4 times, and I've still not gone to the top of Mount Carmel. The story of Elijah with the prophets of Baal and that contest that happened on the top of Mount Carmel. I've driven past it. I've even gone slightly up the mountain just for a little bit, and then we came back down. It eats me up. But I don't find that discouraging. I find that motivating. Like, okay, we've got a job to do. We can keep doing this. Let's start. We've got a plan as far as our organization of what studies, what stories we're going to tell first. But you better believe we've got a secondary list of, okay, if we get to do this 15 more years, 20 more years, this is where we're going. And there's no shortage of material.
And with that said, some of this stuff, man, the date for you to have gone to Nineveh and captured everything is never going to happen now, right? And Syria has
Yeah,
just been
it's
wackoed by
yeah,
humanity. And so some of these stories are fleeting, and it's like, oh my
yeah,
God, but you can't know which place is going to get torpedoed next. You
yeah.
can't.
But it just makes us like all the more. Let's get in there and tell this story because you never know. Like 10 years from now, that museum might not be there anymore. 10
Right.
years from now, that site might. We just came back to tell the story of the Book of Acts, and so we're telling the story of Saul's conversion. He's on his way to Damascus.
Mhm.
We didn't go to Damascus. There is some tourism that's still happening there, but as a film crew, it was not suggested that we go and do that. Maybe one day we can. Maybe the situation will shift and change. But that's kind of our philosophy when we're over there. We're capturing what we intend to capture. But anytime we have opportunity to make a side quest or shoot additional stuff, it's like, hey, we might not use that for 5 years.
Right.
But capture it now because you never know. And so, yeah, I've got stuff on our hard drives that we shot back in 2020 that
Yeah.
hasn't been used yet, but we hope to.
Yeah. It's an amazing endeavor. And because the bar of entry is so low, you can take on these projects, even if they're passion focused. I'm not saying this is your case, but someone can say, I'm going to do the best video of whatever. They're going to go to Damascus with their iPhone and they're going to go shoot something that will blow all of our minds. That really can happen. Then you got to find a market for it. But again, the marketplace also has a lower bar to entry. So you can go out and reliably do this. But the thing you said earlier is you don't always get to do passion project to passion project.
Right.
Sometimes you got to go do that ad or that micro documentary for Tide. And you're like, I am working, and I don't want to pick on Tide, everybody. Tide's a fine product.
I'm sure
But
that'd be fascinating to do, right?
yeah, right, yeah. So I've been this is a slight sidebar, but this is entertaining, so let's do it. So I went to the Spam Museum, and it was incredible. And one of the things that I believe that they did, and if they didn't, they got as close to actually doing it as they could. But there's a song that someone wrote and performed about Spam, and if it's not Sammy Hagar. And if I ever get a chance to interview him, I'm going to ask him. It's like, hey, it's Spain. Yeah. Like it sounds like Sammy Hagar.
Nice. Yeah.
So let's say it is Sammy Hagar. So he took a check from Spam because he had to. He's like, what do you mean? I'm going to give you $10,000 to perform and give all the rights away to this song that nobody's ever going to hear? Hell yeah. Like you have to do that. And that's not what fills your soul. But it does give you $10,000 so you can, and I'm saying 10, I don't know what the number was, but now you've paid your rent for the year and now you're no longer worried about that. You can go back to, Ronnie Montrose and go, let's write some more songs.
Yeah. Yeah. Because sometimes you got to do the passion projects and no one's going to pay for that. You're going to pay for that. But any creative can tell you sometimes you've just got to do it and, shoestring that thing. And so, yeah, finding the things that when they come along, I'm very much convicted. You should never sell yourself out. Every creative should have standards. I'm not going to stoop to this. I am a Christian. There are things I'm just not going to produce for you, no matter how much money you offer to me. But as long as it's not, offending your standards or conscience, like do the thing, because then that opens up windows and doors of opportunity where you're not wondering where your next paycheck is going to come. That's been taken care of. And now you can focus on the thing that really does fill you up. Hopefully it's a passion project that does more than just fill you up. Hopefully it's something that your audience is looking for and will fill them up as well. Those are the things that we're constantly striving to do. Is sometimes I'll put the thing that I would like on hold because I'm hearing from our audience after doing this now for a decade, it would be really helpful if you all told a story of fill in the blank. Okay, I'm starting to hear that a lot. What can we do to make that happen? That was one of the reasons why we, a few years back, pursued the story of the Exodus that took us to Egypt and Jordan. We had heard that numerous times, almost from the beginning of our founding. And it's like, that's going to be a hard one. Egypt and Jordan are not easy to film in, and that's a long, that's a lot of area to cover. But you hear it often enough and you hear the reasons why people are asking you for that. And it's like, okay, well, what can we do? What can we do to make that happen? And we did, and it was hard. It was excruciating, but it was still important to do.
Depending, I've got a lot of time in the desert, so depending on where you're at and you're shooting, man, it's not easy on gear. You might burn up a $6,000 or $10,000 camera and have no way around that. And just for anybody watching. So let's say you're in Iraq and you're filming something in between the rivers and it's ancient. Your car, if it breaks down and you have to push it, you're going to have to pour some water or something on that hood of that car to push, because it will burn your hands. It's so hot, right? Yep. So now think about plastic and metal and electronics. Solder melts at a pretty low temperature. When you get above 120, you're like, oh man, is this motherboard going to hold together, right? That's legitimate. And it's just in a Pelican case in the sun, and you pull it out and that thing is gone, And so that's just one thing. Now there's sand everywhere, and the desert, she covers everything, because that's true. It will absorb all
at the end of every day, what we would do to blow out all the lenses and make sure there's no sand, even just a grain or two could ruin something. There, thankfully, at least the cameras that we use will shut down if they start overheating. Like they'll prevent you from like burning the sensor out. But that means that there have been times where it's like, okay, the scene is now put on hold. We have to go find some shade and cool this thing down, shut it off, pull the battery out, and let that thing cool down. Everybody get some water, because we're going to fire this thing back up again. We probably have 8 more minutes before it shuts down again, and let's finish shooting the rest of the scene. But those are still fun problems to try and solve. And that's filmmaking for you. It's a series of problem solving. And we had that experience certainly in Jordan. We had that experience when we were in Jericho, and even northern parts of Israel, where it gets hot, this dry heat. And you're looking for the shade. And as soon as cut is yelled, all the cameras come down, all the cameras get shut off, and we cool off while we find the next location. And then you've got a time limit. In some ways, though, it keeps you moving quickly. You're not just going to needlessly roll because the camera can't handle it.
Right. Yeah, boy, that's you're saying a lot there. Trying to understand and communicate how hot a place is. It's until you've been there and felt that convection of wind coming into your face. You're just like, oh God, I have to look away from it. It's so hot. And then you're also caring for any talent that's in front of the camera, because they're going to put everything into that performance. And so you have to say, get out of the sun, get some water. I'm not kidding around. Get some water. I say, get some, and stay on, because you physically, like we always talk about hot heat, dry heat. Walk across a desert and see how hot heat treats you. Like, you will die within a short amount of time, because you cannot drink enough water day in day. So if you're on a 14-day shoot, you're trying to drink as much water as you can. You can't take in enough. And so every day you're degrading on your overall health. And look, we'll withstand it, but it's not gentle. And if you're looking for peak performances, you're going to have to manage your people as much as your equipment.
Yeah, we have numerous people who say things like, and I appreciate their enthusiasm. I'd love to go on a production trip with you. Next time you go, I'll hold gear or whatever I have to do. It sounds like an amazing experience. And I'm not going to lie, it is. To see some of these places and to do the work that we do, it is. It's been life-changing. But it is not a vacation, and it is not a Bible Lands tour. It's excruciating. And we're having fun, and we're making memories, and we're glad to do it. But it's one of the reasons, like my wife, bless her heart, we've got 3 kids here at home. She homeschools them. She's never been overseas. She's never been with me on one of these trips. And oh my God. She's awesome. But I tell her, like, I want you to see it. I would love to take you to Israel, but I don't want you coming on a production trip. You won't enjoy that. And she doesn't need any convincing. She hears the stories, she knows. But it's like, yes, it's a blessing. And yes, we are looking for people every production trip, to those who are willing to come with their skills and their endurance to do the thing. But it is not a vacation. It is not easy. And so there's quite a bit of hiking. And it's not just hiking; it's hiking with 20 to 30 pounds of gear on your back.
Yeah. Yeah.
My phone tells me this most recent trip, like I said, it was about 18 days total. So we were shooting for about 13 days. We had some travel days between countries, but at least I was averaging between 12 and 13 miles of walking each day.
Yeah.
Or so my phone tells me.
Yeah.
And that's walking with gear, and it's exciting and it's fun, but it's not easy. But the things that are typically the most worthwhile are not the things that are the easiest.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Actually, when we finish doing this, I'm going to shoot a little video for this everybody should join Podmatch. My little mini commercial. I don't get paid for that. Just saying it, because if you have a podcast, it's a great thing to go. You and I met on Podmatch. I'm going to shoot a video talking about portability, mobility, and deployability. Like, yes, you can get to a truck. Yes, you can get into a plane, a train, a boat, and you can go somewhere and do something. But your gear has to be, that's deployable. Your gear has to also be portable and mobile. So can you carry it? And do you have so much stuff that you have to do so many trips that it's just not, so my whole 3 camera setup for my podcast is it all fits in a backpack. And I don't mean a big backpack, a regular size backpack. So I've shrunk it down. But that means that, like, this 2-pound battery, it doesn't get to go on the trip, because that's not as portable and mobile as I need. And maybe I'll bring this thing. I brought that up because it's sitting here. But, like, look at my tripod. This thing is dinky, right?
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, and it sits on top of a table. It gives me a nice shot. I'm using one of those to shoot this right now, right? So the reason why I bring this up is you're right about all that. Like, how do we get 500 pounds of gear from here to 25 miles away? Oh, by the way, up a marble staircase on ancient stairs, and I can't have anybody get hurt, and nobody falls downstairs until you need someone to not fall down the stairs, and you're like, oh no. It's like, and so that portability, mobility thing, it's a real thing, and you don't get to bring everything. You don't get to plan for every contingency, and yet you have to plan for every contingency.
We had a talented team. I'm thankful for them. But all of us were kind of making those decisions. I brought the bulk of the gear, but our DP also brought some of his as well. And it's like, I could make this scene look nice if I had 2 of these lights, but I get to bring 1.
Yeah.
And it would be really great if we had 2 of these tripods, or 3, but we might not bring any of those and just use travel tripods. And so, there were 2 days prior to our trip where I had all my gear out, and it was like, I need to fit all of what I need in these 3 Pelicans, and that's it. And each Pelican needs to weigh 50 pounds or less.
Right.
That's the puzzle.
That's portability, mobility.
That's it.
Capture.
And it's amazing. There really were only a couple of pieces of gear that we actually had to rent while we were over there. And one of them, I hated it. It was a tentacle time code box. It weighed nothing. It would have taken up no room, and I forgot it.
Right.
But on the whole, our team was very nimble. I don't know that there was a piece of gear that we didn't use. I might have brought in a few pieces of extra kind of hardware, those just in case. But how many just in case pieces do you bring? But it's a fun puzzle to solve. But you can't have everything. And that's what you think of the great filmmakers of the past. You think of George Lucas, when I'd say he was at his zenith, when he was making episodes 4, 5, and 6. The guy didn't have endless amounts of money. He had very little money. And he got, in my opinion, the most creative when he had to go, okay, I've got a ping pong table and I've got model kits and I need to make a Death Star. It wasn't, well, I'm just going to spend, $10 million and hire a VFX artist. No, I'm going to piece together model kits on a ping pong table. And it worked, and so that's the fun part of it. It's just stretching yourself. There is a way to get this square peg into this round hole. I've just got to figure out, how do we do it? And so that's the fun and the creative challenge to solve.
Quite often, a bigger hammer will smash anything through any size hole.
Do you remember that scene in Apollo 13? You remember when they needed to replace the filters on Apollo 13?
Yeah.
And that scene where we have to make this filter fit into this
Yeah.
spot with these things, and we need to do it in the next 6 hours. I love that.
That's and obviously that story is true. That's why it's in there. But that team, so if you read, there's a book called Apollo by Charles Murray, and I can't remember the co-author, but they write about the non-astronaut people, and they write about that team, that all the things they did, and for the whole program. So it wasn't just that one time. Those guys were like, we need engineers and guys who can build things to solve problems in an instant, because we got people up in space.
Yeah.
We're going to sit them on top of a missile. Then we're going to launch them 120 miles, 250,000 miles, way out there. And when we have a problem, we need super smart people. How do you do this? And in a lot of ways, what you're doing, it's the same thing. You're doing a space shot.
Well, I am glad to say that fewer lives are actually on the line for the things that we're doing. But there are some similarities. You made me think of, there's a podcast that I love called 13 Minutes to the Moon. I think BBC produces this, and they've done several seasons. The first season was describing the very first, shuttle launch. But then they did a season on Apollo 13, and they're using actual recordings of those astronauts, but also they spend quite a bit of time talking about those people in mission control who had to solve those problems. Using very limited time and resources, but the people were just geniuses and figured it out and saved those guys' lives. So,
and oftentimes doing real math, real slide rules, just hand and a mechanical device, more similar to an abacus than a calculator, and so solving major math problems. When you work in the religious realm, we can all conjure up like what we think that industry is like, but what is it like working there? I know I've done shows with folks that have worked on the BBC, the BYU production teams. They've either been in front or behind the camera and everything, and so there's and almost every big church is a media company now. Like there's a lot of media attention. I mean, it's amazing what they do. So tell us about that marketplace, and how does it respond to your guys' stuff? How do you respond to it?
Sure. Ours is fairly unique because we are our own team. So we're not, and when I say team, on these trips, we're bringing 8, maybe 10 people, for a feature-length documentary series. That's not a lot of people. So I'm not getting to necessarily work on their sets or work, alongside of the Jim Caviezel's or the Kendrick brothers or the Kingdom Story Company. I've been to some of the locations that The Chosen was filmed at, but I haven't met Dallas. So when we work with our team, we are rubbing shoulders with others who are working in the industry and swapping stories and sharing stories. Anyone who wants to come into the Christian film industry and think, I'm going to work alongside of perfect people who never say a crossword, and there's no issue and there's no drama. Well, that does not exist. It's the same idea of I'm looking for a church to attend, and I'm looking for a perfect place where people are never going to mistreat me and there's never going to be any issues or drama. Like, that's called heaven, and we're waiting for that. We're not going to experience that now. What you are going to do is you're going to work alongside of imperfect people who understand that they're saved by the goodness and grace of God, and you're going to be patient with each other and roll with each other's mistakes, strive to help each other and help each other grow in your craft and in your personal lives. And that's the experience that we've had. We've got a great set of people who've helped us on our projects. We don't use the exact same people every time. In fact, on this most recent trip, 5 of them were people I'd never worked with before. Out of our a team of 10, they were people that I knew and had we had mutual colleagues, but this was a first for us. And learning to work alongside of them is really very it's helpful, and everyone should be put in that position where you're melding personalities and sometimes beliefs and skill sets, And I'm convinced that anyone can make that work if you have the right kind of heart about it. And our team did fantastic. I was thrilled with them. As far as how have people responded to the content that we've created, when you're creating content about religious topics, you're going to get a wide variety of feedback. And I'd say if you are making religious content that no one disagrees with, that even the whole like secular world as a whole has no issues with, you're probably not telling the gospel in the way that the gospel was presented, because that's not even how Jesus audiences responded to his message. So we want to create content that is high quality. We want to create content that's fun to watch and that's entertaining. But above all, we want to create content that is accurate to the source material. And if someone's going to come and bring a criticism to us, I'm okay if they want to criticize, the camera angles or the style or the pacing. I'm okay if they want to criticize the hosts, because I'm not one of the hosts. Just so long as there's no real criticism of you misrepresented the source material, because we don't want to do that. We want to be as accurate as we possibly can be. The style may not be your favorite. That pacing of that scene, that may not have been your choice if you had been at the creative helm. But our goal is always to represent the source material. And we've been incredibly encouraged, especially on our YouTube channel, of people responding and saying, like, this is exactly what I was looking for. We've even had some people say, I was in a really dark place, struggling with my faith perhaps, or even wondering if God was even real. And I stumbled across your stuff on YouTube and watched for hours. Or parents who are coming to us and saying, I could never get my kids interested in Bible study, but now they keep asking me to watch more of your guys' content. And they're initiating conversations about the Bible now. That's cool. That's what we're after. And so it's less about the awards that we might win. It's less about the YouTube subscriber count. Although we are knocking on the door of 100,000, and I would really like the YouTube plaque.
All right, come on now. Let's do this.
We're so close. We're so close. But it's not about that. Right. It's about like our lives being changed, our people drawing closer to God because of our humble efforts, and what can we do to re-engage people with God's word. We've got to do the thing well. Like I said, it's got to be well produced. There are many good intended filmmakers out there who have traveled to the Bible lands and created stuff that it's a lecture from the land is what we call them. Like, they're lecturing and Jerusalem happens to be off in the distance behind you. And like, that's keeping no one's attention. We want to engage. We want to go into the city. We want to talk to the locals. We want to taste the food. We get our host knee deep in mud and have him make mud bricks so that you can understand what the Israelites had to do when they were slaves in Egypt. We try to make it engaging as much as possible, so that they can appreciate the source material.
Let's make sure we plug that channel right down below my face. The handsome visage is the @Appian Media tag. That's how you watch on YouTube. And you're right, these guys are getting close to the big plaque. That's incredible, man. It's neat. Yeah. I had the opportunity when I was in Iraq to go to a brick factory once to see that ancient task being done on the daily by real people in real time, and it is amazing. I have stood in Afghan valleys where there is no electricity, there is no modern plumbing, and you see how people live. It's impactful when you see someone working in that world like that. And by the way, not a gentle existence. It's hot out there, no AC, limited electricity if there's any. And if that world, it gives you an appreciation for how hard just getting up and surviving that day was, and those folks, I'm sure, found a way to be happy within all of that. But to capture that is, I think about those things quite often, or like a house built with no metal, just earth and wood and oh my gosh, it's amazing.
Strong people. And yet our experience has shown us like they're just good-hearted, happy people. even in the midst of their difficulties. It's sobering for me when I come back to my, very comfortable existence here in the US, and I've got electricity and I get bent out of shape when my fiber internet stops working in my home. Like, come on.
I was hollering at my computer this morning as we were trying to get ready because it was going too slow, right? Yeah. I'm often saying, hey, if you think there are problems now, turn the electricity off and watch how fast society collapses. We are not built for that. And boy, oh boy, it gets real dicey real fast. And I speak Warlord. I've talked to those guys and I understand why they exist. It doesn't make the things that they do that are bad, excusable, but that's true for everybody. And so you can develop an appreciation for how close to survival folks are in any given time. And that happens here in America.
Yeah.
But yeah, seeing that performed in the task of building, or making bricks is a great way to humble all of us,
Yeah. Yeah. I got thrown into that scene as well. Sometimes we'll kind of break the fourth wall and show the audience, hey, it's not just the hosts. There's actually a crew behind them. And so the decision was made. I don't know who made it, but they're like, let's get Craig in there and get him to make a brick along with one of the hosts, who happens to be my oldest brother. And so, yeah, I got my hands dirty. I didn't get my knees down in it, but I certainly got my hands dirty. And even in that limited experience, just appreciated how strong these guys were that do that day in, day out. It's impressive.
Yeah. I think that when you're working on a non-Craig project, a non-Appian project, what kind of projects are coming in the door? I mean, at some point you build enough business that, and you tell me, maybe I'm getting this wrong, but you're not always outbound cold calling, trying to find gigs. Yeah. Your agent isn't like, hey, a lot of it's starting to come in now. So what comes in the door and how did you build that part of the machine?
Yeah. Well, I'll try not to go too far back into my history to explain how it is now. But when I got out of film school, I was convinced I did not want to own my own business. I did not want to work for myself. And I did not want to manage a team. And I think I have no doubt, God was listening and chuckling to himself and going, just watch this. And so for the first several years after film school, I worked in TV news and was looking for companies that I could just be a part of that team, and they would hand the projects to me and I would, create what was presented to me. And I did that for many years. 3 days after I returned from our first trip to Israel, I got fired from my job where I was working at what I thought was my dream job, a video production company here in northern Indianapolis area. I got fired from my job and was presented with, do I put myself in that position again, put my family in that position again, where I go out and I look for that company who could at any moment decide they no longer need me? Or do I work for myself, do the thing that I swore I would never do? And so I did. I started about a decade ago, just freelancing, hiring myself out as a producer, director, cinematographer, drone operator, editor, like all the things, because I was willing to take whatever. And yeah, those first 2 years were those cold calls, cold emails. Those were going back to clients that, or potential clients. And I made sure this was okay with my former employer. They didn't want to use the services of my former employer. Hey, can I have that list of people? I'll reach out and see if I can offer. And that was building up a network, going to those, networking meetings that are super boring, but you might rub shoulders with the one guy who happens to know the person in charge of communications and hire you for a shoot. And so what I was attracting most of the time were kind of those business testimonial videos, interview driven, some B-roll to kind of help craft a genuine story about a business. I'm less inclined to do the commercial straight up buy this project or hire this service. I'm looking to tell stories, even for a business, especially for a business. And so nonprofits were coming to me and do come to me quite a bit. Events, you better believe that very early on I was shooting weddings and got out of that as quickly as I possibly could. I just, the stress level necessary for those types of events. And so was willing to do that on a limited run. I am no longer. So just to clarify that to your audience, don't reach out to me for a wedding. And what has happened over the last 4 or 5 years now is more of my time is now committed to Appian Media, but I do still have some clients. There's a Christian high school here in Indianapolis that I'm on retainer with, so I cover their events throughout the year and help craft those stories. There's some nonprofits. There's one that raises funds for cancer research and prevention. And I think I'm on year 5 or 6 with them, where I get to talk with people who have battled cancer or talked with people who are actively working to find a cure. And so getting to tell those stories every year is a joy. And then just the occasional event. Maybe there's a specific series of topics or things that are happening. I don't just shoot in the Midwest area. I do travel around the country. And so helping to tell those stories. I find myself more and more attracted to the non-for-profits or the businesses that are actively trying to make positive change in their communities. Right. Those are the things that are attractive to me.
There's need to be able to have that much success. There's, gosh, I don't know how many of you are there that didn't get to where you're at. Is the success ratio 10-1? Is it 20-1? I mean, and it's not that you're lucky. Everybody's working hard though. Everybody's out there trying to hustle it together, and it's just good on you for the uncommon success. I mean, it is a business that has a lot of access, but the money part is as hard as ever, if not harder than ever.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, I would not consider myself, and I rarely meet a creative who thinks I have reached it. Like, I did it. Most of us are, yes, I have some clients right now and I'm doing work right now, but 6 months from now, like that may all be gone. That's just the nature of this particular industry. And so most of us are not sitting back thinking, yeah, we did it. Most of us are still pounding the pavement, doing the work, making the connections. For me, it's a faith thing. It's a lot of prayer and a lot of, God, I trust you to provide. You've always provided. Sometimes he waits until like we are in like desperate, but he's always provided. He's always come through. Yeah. And so it's just being willing to do hard things, being willing to take the jobs that maybe aren't your favorite, and working towards something better. Learning to price yourself as a creative. That's been one of my challenges. It's like, what do you charge a client, and how long do you work before you feel like you can finally bring those rates up to what you think are worth that? Right. But as with art of any kind, you might have a number that you think you're worth, but it's worth less if it's a number that, no one's willing to pay. Art is worthless until, this is a hot take right here, but art is worthless if no one's willing to view it. And so finding that balance, not underselling yourself, don't work for free, but finding that balance so that you can offer value to them, while also, feeding your family. Yeah.
Don't work for free, right? Unless you're like, this is the one thing I'm going to do for free. That's sort of what I do. It's like, I'll be speculative on this, but just this. And when I'm done, I'm done. And I let the person know, like, I don't do this. I don't really get paid to do this. But in this specific case, sure, I'm going to go on this ride, because it is good to do that.
Probably clarify that. There were things, especially when I was in school and the couple of years after school, where someone needed an extra pair of hands on a short film, and the budget that they could pay was $0. I hopped on that. That experience is incredibly helpful. Take those. But when a client approaches you and they can pay for those services, but they want to shortchange you, or hey, we're a non-for-profit and therefore we can't pay people to do work for, like, that's not true. I'm a founder of a non-for-profit. I know that's actually not true. If the thing is worthwhile to you, you'll find the funding to do it. But I'll offer you a discount, or I may trim off something here because I believe in your mission. But once you set the
Yeah.
precedent, yes, I can go to Craig and I can get a free video. They'll
Yeah.
come back and then be shocked when you start, can I actually charge you for this? So,
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's I like to be, when I have the opportunity to do this now, I like to be upfront with it. I'm like, hey, I normally charge X,
yes.
but we're also going to work within your budget to
Yeah.
figure out what I will and can do. That doesn't mean you get all of it that you would pay or you would get if you paid X, but we're going to get this thing done. Here's what
Yeah.
I'll be able to do given what you have available. And I think folks would rather have that conversation. And the other thing, and man, this is it's a hard lesson. That's why I'm saying it out loud to everybody else is, um, give yourself a raise. It's easy to not give yourself a raise and just avoid having to ask for that bigger nut. But the reality is you do have to figure out where you're worth. And that means you've got to push yourself in an uncomfortable zone and say, this is going to cost you $10,000. That's what it costs. And at that, I probably should charge you a little bit more, and then they go, okay, $10,000. And either they say no, which is fine, or they might say, well, we only have 7,500. Well, now you can figure out what that's worth. And
start
that
the
whole conversation. Yeah. And you can't do things for free. Like, it has to only be like, I'm doing this for free in this case because of this. Otherwise, no, I'm sorry. I don't have free capacity available right now. You're welcome to pay. It's like that.
Yeah.
But these are hard. It's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable having to say to someone, I'm worth something.
The money discussion is my least favorite part about this job. What's your budget is my least favorite. Like, I can tell we're connecting. I think this is going to be a great project. I would love to do it, but then I have to ask the question that I hate to ask is like, let's talk about your budget. But it's gotta be asked. And there are few other industries where people would expect free services. And so sometimes I think I've got other siblings of mine that are very talented artists in other forms. And like, how often this suggestion is even made, but it's like, what restaurant would you go into and go, I want your finest entree, and you give like 100% discount, right? No.
No.
So
you go to the gas station and it's $6 a gallon, and you're like, I have to fill up because I have to buy this, and you just pay it. You don't go in there and say, I'd like you to do this filling up of my gas tank for free, right? Yeah, you're right. And once we get over that hump, and even if it's always a little uncomfortable, it's like stage fright. Even if you're a little bit uncomfortable asking about the budget, and I have my own little ways of talking around it. And I'm not saying I'm the world's greatest salesperson, but I'll say, obviously this takes some money to do. And when I talk about specifically podcast producing, I'll say to the person, all of this is time and money. And if you've got surplus time, then you can save some money. But if you don't have any time, one, should you even be doing this? And two, can you afford to buy my time? And if you can't, then we're back to, do you have time? And should you be doing this? And maybe your real next task is not me. It's going out and getting yourself $10,000 or whatever that number is going to be.
Yeah. I find just being open with the clients, understanding and appreciating, look, these services are not cheap, but I'm going to do my very best to explain to them the value that it can bring. Here's why it's important to invest in this area. But hey, I can understand that your budget is a little tight. Here are some ideas that you've thrown. Maybe that's not the best use of your money right now, but let's invest in this, and that's going to cost this. And appreciating this has been really helpful for me when I'm talking to other non-for-profit, clients, where it's like, I am a founder of a nonprofit myself. I understand what it is to work in the confines of the budget. And I understand the desire to do your mission, and to do it well, and to be respectful of those donors and their contributions. And I have unwittingly, but maybe intentionally, talked them out of spending the money because they look at that and go, this actually isn't the best use of our money. We could accomplish this with a series of blogs or social media posts.
That's cool. Yeah. And that's a lot. I've talked more people out of hiring me to be a podcast producer than have hired me, because I don't want to jump onto a failed project. Are you serious about doing this? Because the production part won't be a problem, you know, but I can't make you want to make your thing that you're desperate to make right now. You know? And that qualification process, that's not easy, because I'm going to show them scary things. and I'm going to say, "Are you going to take on this scary thing?" And they're like, "Yes, of course." And I'm like, "For reals?" Because like it's not going to. No one's, and I love to say, no one's ever going to see this. 8 billion people are never going to see this when you make it. And if you get lucky, and 1 million people see it, it won't be like like this isn't. It can't be about that. Not with the budget we're working with in here. It's a very challenging thing to exist in this creative world.
Yeah.
I want to. Okay, so there's two things I love to ask folks in your position, and look, all of us who are in this world, we wear too many hats, and
It's
there's
true.
all hats that we're like, I want to get this damn hat off my head. So, which hat is the next hat you want to get off your head and have to never deal with it again because you've got enough capacity now to hire someone for that?
Fundraising, and I can say that without hesitation.
We all know what it is. Yeah,
we all know it. Our first year with Appian Media, we launched a Kickstarter campaign. So we did crowdfunding online through Kickstarter. And that was simply because that was the experience that I had. I had worked with some other companies. And even I had a brother who had some very successful Kickstarter campaigns for a board game that he made, Pocket Dungeon Quest. I think you can probably still find that online. So that's what I knew. That's how I knew we could potentially raise the funds necessary for this first trip. And we were very blessed to not only reach but exceed that goal and take our first trip. But over the years, it's like, well, Kickstarter, that's taken a 10% cut off of everything that we're doing. Let's do it this way. There was a period of time where Facebook was allowing people to donate, and they would not take a cut at all. So nonprofits were getting 100% of what was raised on Facebook. So we were all in on Facebook for a couple of years. We've done some, in-person events, but I feel like it's not something I went to school for. I feel like there are definitely other people out there more talented at that. And I am a storyteller at heart. I'm a creative. I would much rather be doing. You found it. Look at that. Look at that. Pocket Dungeon Quest, man. Jeff Dehut. But there are more people I know that are talented at that and actually love doing that. That would be quite a blessing to us. In the meantime, because of our small team and the nature of what we're doing, I am heavily involved in that. And that would be definitely the first hat that I would give away if we had the funds and if we had the individual who could be willing to step into that role.
Yeah, yeah. And you definitely can build that machine and get that tiger, right? And like, hey, you get to eat what you kill. And can you kill a lot? Okay, great. Then we're all going to be all right. But they also want their share. And once the tiger realizes the tiger can hunt, the tiger's like, hey, I'm going for bigger game. And so it's a very challenging hat to be able to take off. And sometimes they don't want to hear from that guy. They want to hear from the guy who's going to do it. And they want to believe in you. Can you guys really do this?
Yeah.
And it's almost
I do love that part of it. I love having phone conversations with potential donors and just sharing with them the heart of the mission. And they love to hear stories about the trips, and I can relate that to them. I'm there with the team doing that. So I would, I would miss kind of handing some of that off, but the best business owners are the ones who realize they shouldn't be doing everything. Right. They should be finding people who are more talented than they are in the places that they aren't. And that is what's best for the organization. So we have a very talented group of people. I am thankful to say that over the last 2 or 3 years, I have handed off social media management because that used to be a lot of my job. Man, best decision we ever made. I still coordinate with them. I still, review the things that they do, but there's so much that they handle now independently of me, and it's fantastic.
I would love to do less of that. I don't get to take that hat off yet, but I will love that day when that happens. The other thing I wanted to ask about, and we'll wrap this thing up. I know I got you right at about an hour now, but I cannot get enough of this latest Shroud of Turin information that has come out and all the videos about it. It is so sticky. And they perform well. Are there stories out there that are comparable where you're like, man, if I could just get out and go do this thing? Because some projects you don't get to do, but that right there, I think would do it. What's a story that you're trying to get to that you think would just kill like all the Shroud of Turin stuff?
Oh man, we aren't usually hunting for those kind of controversial hot button topics, but we know that we're going to touch on them.
Mhm.
So when we did the story of the Exodus, where's Mount Sinai? It used to be 40 years ago, no one debated the thing. It was not like, it was understood. Well,
Mhm.
I mean, less than 10 years ago, well, maybe a little longer than that, but certainly on YouTube, videos started popping up suggesting some alternate locations, and it was very exciting. And so we produced our series on the Exodus. That was not our intent to really focus on that, but you're going to touch on it. You're going to talk about it.
Mhm.
For me, I don't know that there's a specific thing that I'm hunting for.
Okay.
That, boy, if we could just snag that. But we
Mhm.
have had some really fascinating conversations and collaborations with a guy named Dr. Scott Stripling. And he and his
Okay.
team are those with the Associates of Biblical Research that they're doing and have been, I think, for about a decade, digs at Shiloh, which is where the tabernacle was prior
Right.
to David building or Solomon building the temple. And the things that they're finding over there are fascinating. You know, they're fairly confident this past season that they have found an area, a platform that matches the specifications of the tabernacle. Like, we actually know how big that structure was, and they're fairly confident they've, like, that's really cool. I'd love to spend some more time digging into that. I've had discussions with people who have climbed Mount Ararat numerous times, and I've even spoken with the gentleman who believes that he's touched pieces of the Ark. Fascinating conversation. Incredibly dangerous location to visit, and certainly shoot and hike for a variety of different reasons. But boy, I'd love to be on the crew that finally found the thing. Like, that'd be neat. But as this individual was describing to me the life-threatening situations that led to, like, it's, boy, I could share stories, and they're not mine to share. But when I relayed those to my wife, we're both like, "Yeah, you're not going to do that. You're not going to do that.
Smart. You got
Fall through the ice and hang over an abyss of blackness while you wait for the rest of your team to hike, pull you up by that one rope that's keeping you alive. No, I'm good."
Yeah, I mean, I've been to dangerous places, and they're dangerous for a reason, because people die there, and you have to start with that real thing. It's it's crazy. Well, listen, I don't want to take any more of your time. I could talk to you all day about this stuff.
Yeah,
It's
this has been
fascinating. I love the
fascinating.
work that you're doing and everything else. But everybody, listen, this is what you do. You go to YouTube, and Appian Media is the tag. You guys know how to do that, or just go to the website itself, and you're going to find everything you need. Craig, thank you very much. Anything in closing before we wrap this up?
Oh man, no, I appreciate the conversation, and I appreciate you trying to give voice to those who are creating, and let's inspire each other and motivate each other to keep at it.
I love it. Everybody, I got another show in a little bit. Make sure you check back in. Craig, thank you very much. I'll say goodbye to you in a second. Everybody else, I'll talk in about an hour and a half.